Okay, so in a few moments, we are going to have a Q&A with Ali Kazemi, who is running a little bit late from an unexpected situation, so he will hopefully be here shortly. Right now, I would like to invite up to the stage the director from Nuisance Bear, Jack Weisman, and anyone else from the team that wants to come up. So I believe we have, this is Sam coming back up to you. Right. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone for staying for this Q&A. And thank you guys so much for joining me. Let's talk about your film. So, Nuisance Bear, maybe you can tell us kind of the genesis of the film, where it began, how it came together.
Sure. This has been like a series of failed starts for many years. We went up there as students in 2015, and I'm originally from the United States. I'm a permanent resident here now, and I didn't really know there were even polar bears in Canada, so I sort of went into this town not really knowing anything and was just shocked by the tourism and sort of the circus that's sprung up around the bears. And so we tried to make this movie a few times, and we never really quite captured, I think, what we were seeing. And most recently, we decided to put the camera on a car and just drove around for 4 weeks until we had enough footage, I guess, to make a short film. It was sort of unintended, I think, while we were shooting. We didn't even realize we were making a film. I think we were just sort of pursuing this longer project that wasn't really, we were struggling with, I guess. And so we brought it back, the footage, and sort of made an assembly, and someone told us it was a film, and then we took it from there, I guess.
Well, I wanted to ask a little bit more about the cinematography, because it's really interesting. It's sort of like you guys capture, we're watching the bears are watching us, you guys are watching the bears, and I mean, to access polar bears, I mean, that's, they're known to be, not the easiest of subjects. So what was your process in being able to capture the cinematography of the bears, and how did you have that access?
Okay. So we had been shooting with a tripod, like, just traditional, and it was just so exhausting getting in and out of the car, and it was always cold, and it was just really inefficient. And so I think I was watching Planet Earth like a couple of years ago, and I saw that polar bear episode and saw the way that they were, shooting the bears by attaching a camera to the front of the vehicle or whatever vehicle. And so we decided that, well, maybe we should try to do something like that. And so I think we had this idea that we wanted to just take a big step back from what traditionally was being shot in Churchill, which a lot of the material that you've seen has been shot there. And so if you were to just pan the camera one way or the other or zoom out, you would see all these other tourists. And so we sort of had this concept that we wanted to examine the gaze that we have as filmmakers and sort of include ourselves. It's a bit self-critical, I hope. And so, yeah, I don't know, I think just realizing that we needed to put the camera in the car to be able to stay at eye level and to move with the bears was like really crucial for us. And I think once we started shooting up there, like the moments sort of just started to reveal themselves.
Sam, how did that go for you?
That was great. But I think also the decision to edit the film in this way with just the footage of the sort of POV of the car and the POV of the bear, that came sort of after. Like, I think initially when we did a lot of shooting, that was like, interviews and stuff that just like out the window in the edit. so I think the decision to shoot it that way kind of came retroactively, I guess, like after we were done.
Yeah.
Does anyone, are there any questions from the audience? Oh, I think we've got a mic that's going to come over to you.
Hello, hello. Amazing film, very cool. The way the camera was always kind of moving and showing like the dimensionality of whatever, like panning across the buildings, and the moving camera was really, really cool. That was awesome that you guys had it rigged onto a car the whole time. I think one of my favorite shots in the film was near the opening where you're tracking that bear and it's showing the text on screen. And then the bear walks out and you see the people taking photos of him, and he kind of goes from the wild world into like the human world. Can you explain like what getting that shot was like? Did you plan that? Was that lucky? And when you got that, were you like, how excited were you?
Yeah, thanks for your question, Luca. Yeah, that was probably one of the most amazing moments for us as well. I think once we filmed it, we sort of realized that maybe we actually could make a film, because it sort of encapsulates all of the themes in a single shot. I'm not sure if we like planned to have this sort of the bear moved from the wilderness into, you know.
No, I think that was just sort of happy accident in the end.
Yeah. And so that opportunity just came up that one single time, you know. The bear happened to be moving parallel with us, and we were on a road, and there was sort of like an intersection that actually happens before the shot begins in the film, and so we sort of saw this interaction happening, but with less tourists, and it wasn't quite as well composed. And then we saw that there was going to be this other opportunity. So I think we were all.
Yeah, it was very stressful because we were having a lot of problems with our camera rig as well, where it would sometimes just erratically tilt up and then we'd lose a shot. So
Yeah. We broke one of our gimbals early on, and so we had to have a replacement flown up, and we're not engineers, so we don't really know what we're doing. So we couldn't fix it, and so occasionally it would just completely fritz out. And so, yeah, Sam was particularly stressed about that because he would always get yelled at by me whenever that happened. He didn't do anything.
Jack did the yelling, I held the control.
But it was a really, really fun experience making the film together, because usually when I think you're working on a film, there's like a cinematographer and maybe there's an operator, but usually you don't have three people sort of operating a single camera. So I was driving. Sam were you pulling focus, or were you?
I was mainly doing the controller.
So up and
Control
down,
stick.
and then Gabby was zooming in and out or pulling focus, which was really critical in that moment. And so I think we all weren't really breathing, and just hoping that it lined up. And then seeing the guy taking the selfie and the bear crossing with that eye line was just like blew us away. And so I think I was just like, we weren't talking. I don't think we were breathing, because once the bear sort of moved into the brush and the shot ends, we all gasped. So.
That is a really amazing shot. Congratulations on capturing that moment. Do we have any? Yeah, okay, Vicky?
I have to turn on. Yeah, Luca actually asked my first question about your reaction in that moment. It's such an epic shot. And what I like about the whole doc and the editing is just so many environmental films remove humans from the natural environment, and the way it's edited, the way it's shot. I was just so shocked how close people were to the polar bears, and the kids trick-or-treating while it's just like lurking around. And so I have a couple questions, just sort of technically and practically. Like in that shot, were they really like just 10 feet away from the polar bears, or did you have a lens? And where was the camera mounted on the car? So just sort of specific.
Yeah, so with any zoom lens, there's a compression of space, and so people and objects appear closer than they really are. And so we actually have seen the photos that the tourists have taken, and you can see that there's a bit more distance. I mean, they're also wider lenses, so it appears like they're more distance, but they're all within the kill distance of a bear. It's about 40 feet, and if that bear had wanted to have any of them, it could have. And so I think it spoke a lot about both the bear and the people that sort of have this mutual trust, maybe. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of kind of bizarre behavior from tourists that don't necessarily know bear etiquette, and there's you know, I don't, it's there's more than what we were able to capture for sure.
Yeah, and just a kind of a fun fact about the first part of your question. Like a lot of the stuff you see on planet Earth with polar bears is shot in this town, and if you just pan some of their shots, you just see a bunch of dudes with cameras like off the side. So
Yeah, and like there's a moment in the shot where the woman walks her like turns her back to the bear, which is like super dangerous. You should never do that. And I think it says a lot to me because it feels like the bear, when there's any sort of urban environment or people or infrastructure in the background, it's not a valuable image. It's only valuable when it's against like this majestic background. And so I thought that sort of revealed this collective blind spot that maybe we have about, you know, the state of things. I don't know.
We have another question?
I'd
We've
like
got
to ask without a mic. You know, I mean, for me, I mean, I'm very impressed by the footage. But it's kind of shocking, the interface of, you know, of this majestic creature that is reduced to this kind of thing. And the extent to which, you know, they're having to be hunted. And really, the amount of vigilance to protect the few people that are there. I wonder, you know, the extent to which you have to navigate your feelings for this beautiful creature.
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's see if I can even come up with an answer.
well, I mean, I definitely like being there in the town. I definitely felt like this was a place that shouldn't like it shouldn't exist. You know, there's no real like it's just this sort of weird economic thing holding it there, and it just was kind of comical to me.
Yeah, and I sort of had that version, that romantic version of the polar bear when I first started going there, and then I went to a couple of Inuit communities just north of there where polar bears are hunted, and I sort of went into that, and I witnessed a couple of polar bear hunts, and I don't know, I think it just changed my perspective in a way too. I mean, it is this symbol, it's many different symbols to many different people, and I think that's really interesting as well. And so, yeah, maybe I've started to peel away that layer of the romantic image of the bear, and it is an animal and it is amazing, but I don't know that there's just different versions of seeing the same thing.
Do we have one last question?
We have
for
one more
these guys?
question, and then I think we should pivot to Allie's Q&A.
Please.
Hi, I really enjoyed the film, and from a lot of different angles. But I'm also interested in how you told your entire story with just picture and sound. And there's no narration and there's no music. And I'm just wondering how conscious some of those decisions were made. And one other little detail is I assume that if you're shooting from a car, you're not really recording the sound. So where did all those sounds come from?
Yeah, thank you for picking up on that. Because of the sound of the engine and because we were filming in slow motion, you couldn't record any sound, and so everything had to be done in post. And so we had an incredible sound designer, David Rose, who essentially made everything from scratch. I'm sorry, I forgot the rest of the question. Oh, right. I think some of it was conscious because, you know, in wildlife films there's a lot of music and there's a lot of narration and sort of anthropomorphizing the animals, and so I think we knew that there was an opportunity to not do that. And like sort of Sam mentioned as well, we had a lot of interviews. Actually, most of them fell through because of COVID, and then I think people started to realize that we weren't telling this postcard version of this place, and so whether or not they canceled because of COVID or not, I don't know. But we just didn't have many interviews, and so we sort of just challenged ourselves to see if we could make a film that people would be interested in that didn't have, you know, music or narration, and it was really built on the sound design.
Amazing to hear about how much the film changed from what you guys thought it might be to what happened in the final product. And I know that the film has been doing really well. It's been to many festivals and won so many awards. So wanted to congratulate you guys and thank you so much again for allowing us to show your film.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.